Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to Top Secret News. I'm your host, Christina George. For the next hour, we're going to be talking UFOs, one of my favorite subjects. um, Excited for tonight's show. It is, as many people know, my health has been really on and off lately. So I feel very appreciative that my guest tonight was scheduled. We had to reschedule because, of course, I was sick. So he's here tonight. But already getting a great response. A lot of you have messaged me on multiple different social media sites and are very interested to hear what our guest has to say tonight, just as I am. All right, let's. If you don't know, then you know. All right. So tonight, my guest is Tom Conwell. And Tom's actually been an electronic technician with US Navy and Honeywell Inc. for 42 years, a Honeywell Temperature Control, Fire Alarm, and Security Software Specialist, Biomedical Engineer, is a Fire Alarm 2 certified, a meteorologist, and an HVAC engineering resource. Man, oh man, he's got some talents there. Tom has wide ranging expertise with a keen sense awareness of psychic physics, computer, and internet software, and a broad knowledge of electronics and how it intersects with the paranormal world and UFOs. Tom studies databases such as forensic pattern researcher, and over the past 6 years, Tom's written 3 volumes of a book series. Book series. They are here, volume 1, 2, and 3. He self-published a collection of blogs, going Interstellar, completed Earthquakes and UFOs, and in his latest work refers to more than 15 encounters with the unknown, the Night Visitants. He studied and researched UFO sighting reports from the East Coast, the Central U.S., the Western U.S., and has given speeches about each of these subjects. I'm going to tell you, he is such an interesting guy. I've known him on social media for quite a while, and I'm so happy again to have him here. So, with that being said, let me go ahead and bring our guest on. Where am I at? Oh, here we go. All right. Too many things. Hey, Tom, how are you?
Good, Chrissy. How you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for being patient, rescheduling and, making it tonight. And then on top of it, guys, I screwed up. I know what time the show is, but I told poor Tom that the show would start at 5 o'clock my time. And you know why? That's because that's what time Paranormal Connection starts normally. And I need to get these both at the same time because I get so confused. Last on Sunday when I did Paranormal Connections, I came on the screen with this background and introduced it as Top Secret News and then realized, oh, today's Sunday. Wrong show. But and that's how it goes. Hey, Carol, it's nice to see you. Kelly, nice to see you too, beautiful. Pat, thank you so much. It's good to see you. All right. Let's get started, Tom. You are a wealth of information and, kind of sounds like technology guru. I love when I hear people have so many different, talents that also intersect and kind of they use in our fields. So I love that. So tell us, a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm the most boring guy you'll ever meet in your life. I am. I really am. I mean, I have nothing going. I just do my work. I look at databases and I try my best to extract information from them. Um,
Well, that's important.
yeah, and I suppose one of the most unusual things that have happened to me is that recently I had a book written about me. That's called The Night Visitants. And that book is, it was written by someone else, but they interviewed me and I told them the story that they wrote, more or less. Um, we had 15 or so different, really off the wall, unusual things that happened to me. And I couldn't explain a single one of them. For the longest time, I thought that I was losing it. I really, really thought I was losing it, until it all sort of came together one night. And it was like right after a dream, and it all hit me. It was somebody was talking to me in my sleep, and I had no idea, and it never happened before. And they were feeding me information. So, who were
Oh,
they? I had no idea. So I started trying to break down who they could have been. Um, Starting, of course, with a spirit guide or something like that, and then ending with extraterrestrial. And the only thing that I could put together that really made sense to me was an extraterrestrial. And then again, I thought, well, who the heck am I to have a contact with an extraterrestrial? Um, so during some of the events that happened to me, um, they gave me some messages, and they came through with a message, and that's when I knew who I was dealing with. Oh, it's been an interesting life, let me tell you. And these last few years have been just off the chains.
now, if you don't mind me asking, what was the message that they were giving to you?
Um, well, there were lots of them. All right.
Okay.
The first one was I was considering getting with a group of people who did what they call a CE5, which is like a group meditation, and they all try to call in a ship, a UFO, and I woke up one morning, and this was about 3 o'clock in the morning. That's when weird stuff happens. And they said to me, or someone said to me in my mind, groups not needed. Just ask. It was very simple like that. Just ask. So I thought about that for a while and wondered what that really meant. And I knew that I was thinking about CE5 just previous to that and possibly joining a group. And whoever, pretty much told me I don't need to join a group. All I have to do is ask them. So
Okay.
I started asking. It, uh, of course, I didn't receive anything immediately, but as was described in the Night Visitants, what happened was the night before I was due to upload my book to Amazon. This was like I had a final copy, and I was ready to upload it and say, "Well, let's put this to bed. Let's work on number 2." All right. So just before that, I saw a UFO in the sky. Actually, I saw 9 of them. And no, this is after I had been asking for probably at that point about 3 months. So, and one of the other things I told them about that I was going to do is if they showed me something, I would write about it in my books. So
Okay.
on the first book, I got this just the night before I was ready to upload it to Amazon, and I changed the very beginning of it, describing what I saw in the sky. Okay, so I thought that was pretty interesting, and then I uploaded the book the next day, and everything was fine. Well, I wrote my second book, They Are Here, Volume 2, and the same thing happened. I was going through the finalization of the book. I happened to have been on vacation for the last few days, and I was going to be returning home the next day and uploading it then. And I was in New Hampshire, looking out over a lake. It's just gorgeous there, just absolutely beautiful. So I'm looking out over a lake and just sort of daydreaming, and I heard in my head, "Look up." So I looked up, and there was this huge flash of red light with an area in the middle of this flash. Well, the flash took up 60% of the sky. All right. And the area and right in the middle of this flash was kind of white and fuzzy. And right from the center of that came this white streak that took out as fast as anything I've ever seen and disappeared over the horizon. And then the red light collapsed. So, what the hell was that? I had no idea. I've never seen anything like it. So, all I could think of was it was kind of like a portal opened and a ship came through. I can't put anything else down as to what I could have seen. But they told me look up, and I did. So I was bound and determined to write about it. So in volume 2, I wrote a story about it. And that happened to be just like in volume 1, right in the very beginning of the book.
Okay.
So I was finishing. I finished this up, started volume 3, which is the West Coast, and I got towards the very end of the book, and I was called into work early one morning. This was about 5 o'clock in the morning. Now I had retired, but I was helping them out, so they asked me to come in early to help them out a little bit more. So I got up early, got in my car, drove across. Well, at that time, the Hudson River. Okay. And drove across the river, and I saw this bright red light in the distance. And what it reminded me of is the top of a tower. You know how it put a
Right.
red light on top of a tower. Well, these are occurring all up and down the Hudson River because of airplane traffic, because the airport's not too far from there.
Okay.
So what I thought was, oh, they just put up another tower. Well, this thing was really bright, and I had never seen anything quite that bright. So here I am driving towards it, and I was about to turn off to go onto the interstate. I hit my left turn signal, and this thing came flying right up my car and was moving in what I would describe as a sinusoidal wave pattern, like that. Okay, right up my car, skipped off the windshield, and was gone. What was that? I mean, I have no idea what that was. But this thing at its closest came within about a foot and a half of me, because like it was the windshield right in front of me. So I went to work, and first thing I did when I pulled into work is I looked at the windshield carefully from the inside, from the outside. No cracks, no anything there. But I guess they told me about themselves and wanted me to write it. So I did. I wrote it in volume 3. Um, I stopped asking because I was kind of afraid of what the next one was going to be. Um,
Wow.
but they found ways to get in touch with me. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I bet. Well, it's again, you said earlier that you really like to collect and extract data. So my
Mhm.
question, so I know you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast now, and we both, are ufologists. With your data that you've been able to come up with, where do you think that there are more sightings in the East Coast, the West Coast, equal? What's your thoughts?
The concentrations of sighting are very, very different. In the East Coast, for instance, if you went from southern Maine um, and drove in a car down to Washington, D.C., yeah, that would be on US 1. And on US 1, you go technically from city to city to city to city without seeing any country. So it's very heavily populated in this area all along that US 1 corridor. And um, is definitely more sightings in the East Coast than in the West. It's just that they're different. In the West, they're all around the cities and the suburbs. And when you get outside of the suburbs, a lot of times you're in, well, desert or farmland or whatever else. And you don't find that as much on the East Coast. So
Right.
there's lots of little towns and lots of people that have sightings there. So
Yeah.
the map looks totally different between the East Coast and the West Coast. But there's
Yeah.
reasons for that.
And I also noticed on the West Coast that we also have a lot of sightings along the coastline. So, because California is so
Mhm.
big, I mean, we have, our Central Valley, we've got, like the northern part, the southern part, like, and even in California, all the different areas are all a little different. So along the coastline, um, there's been, quite a few sightings and actually out in the ocean around that area.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah,
What do you, go
the
ahead.
the same thing is on the East Coast. You get those right alongside the coast from Maine down to Florida, and some of them are very, very heavily populated with sightings. Florida, South Carolina, um, Virginia, New Jersey, New York, Long Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maine are loaded right along the coast.
Oh, yeah. So it seems like, why do you think that is? I mean, I know one thing where it's very populated of sightings is the coastlines, regardless of where you're at. But the other sightings are in very like rural area, farmland area,
Hmm.
desert area, non-populated areas. And why do you think that there's, a concentrated amount of sightings in those areas specifically?
Okay. Um, what I did in my first three books is I looked very carefully at any reasons that would explain exactly what you just asked me. Is there something there that would attract um, UFOs? In other words, I I couldn't come up with anything from state to state that was repetitive between the states, except an occasional Air Force base um, or a large body of water or a nuclear plant. Uh, that right up and down, it really didn't matter. And then when you get into the western areas of North Carolina, up in the mountains, there's very low population there, and they are loaded with sightings up there. Um, and I believe that has something to do with ships possibly um, having underground bases or something along that line that would attract them there. Okay, there you
I,
go.
I'm back. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, you gotta love my studio. I, I definitely have ghosts in here, and so every show there's something that's going on with the show. So they mute my
Okay.
mic. They might kick me out of the show real quick. I gotta jump back in. It's fun and
Great.
games. So let me go. I got a couple of things coming. Questions. Oh, we got one right here. Let's see. Pat says, do you believe each of your encounters were of the same race or same ship?
Um, I have no idea. I could make a guess, but it'd just be a guess. So I really don't know. It could have been anybody talking to me, but it would make sense that it would be from one race of beings, and they would try to contact me in different ways. But each of the things that I saw were drastically different from each other. drastic,
Oh,
not even close. So it's kind of hard for me to say that they're all from the same kind of group, because you'd think that there'd be some consistency with what I was seeing, and there wasn't.
makes sense. All right. All right. Let's go from Instagram. Instagram, I'm getting this one is from Carl, and he is wanting to know that what do you think of the congressional UFO hearings? Do you think we'll see, what is it? Do you think we will actually see an actual alien spacecraft in our lifetime?
I sure hope so. But that wasn't the question. The question is, will the Congress trigger that? Will they make it happen? I don't believe they will. Um, One of the things that I was told in one of my dreams slash nightly encounters is that they told me that they will they will be made known to everyone in 2027. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. I
That's I understand because I have precog dreams,
mhm,
and I originally thought that it was just part of my psychic abilities. So I thought my guides, I don't know, whoever at the time, I just figured somebody was telling me. Come to find out later, it was uh, uh, it was aliens. I was being given information, and the, what's very different now for me is that they also show me a lot of false flag stuff that goes on, which it started out just usually it was like just weatherman, weather related issues. And then from there, it moved more towards um, major events that were happening, and then false flags, and just all kinds of stuff. So now it's continued, and even now I am being shown that like there is going to be a huge UFO that everybody's going to see,
mhm.
but that it's from us. It's not. It's going to be more to frighten people and control people more than anything else. Um, what are your thoughts? Do you get any information similar to that?
Not exactly similar to that, but some of the things that I'm hearing are are related to um, what I should be telling people. In other words, um, someone will come to me at night, and I'll wake up with this thought in my head, which will have me go to Facebook and make a public posting. And that's what they're doing with me. They're trying to get me to say things uh, on their behalf. I suppose that's all I can say. Um,
Susan
and
says,
um, Susan said, "I doubt our government will ever spill the beans on UFOs," and I sort of think along that way. Um, I think Koresh is David Grush is trying to help the process along a little bit, and I don't know how successful he'll be, but we're further along than we would have been had he not shown up.
yeah, no, I do agree. I definitely agree, with that. We're getting somewhere.
Mhm.
Again, there's so much that is kept from us, and it, they will suppress everything and tell you it doesn't exist until there's just absolutely no doubt. It's just all in your face. There's no doubt in your mind.
Hmm.
And I kind of feel like this is like the teaser. I don't feel that really that Congress really knows everything that goes on within our government, especially when black budget projects, things like that. Um, so I think that yes, this was a monumental kind of goal that we had, but I think that we're getting there. I think that getting a little bit, information out is the key, and we just have to keep doing it. Um, and what I'm hoping is that for people who have experienced abductions, things like that, that have and contactees that have been talking about this forever, will finally be able to feel comfortable to come forward and tell their stories because you
Mhm.
know it's just so crazy. It's like the paranormal, nobody believed until the paranormal, until all of a sudden it was all over television, and
Mhm.
everybody's like, oh, if it's on TV it must be true. Then same thing with UFOs, and then you get the movies, but people say, oh, it's all made up. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this stuff really does exist, go figure. It's kind of interesting how it does, but it's then when people start believing. And the one thing that I was talking about this on another show the other day that I was on, and we were talking about these, and what was interesting for me is like these hearings. I expected that many of the people who I've interviewed over the years would be, their opinion would be they were ecstatic that these hearings were happening and this information was coming out. But it was actually the opposite. I actually got a lot of people that were actually very upset of the fact that they've been trying to tell their stories forever and nobody's believed them. They've been ridiculed, they've been, shunned, everything. And here, military, people or people in the government come forward, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, now we believe it.
Mhm.
What
Yeah.
do you think?
Okay. For a little while, when I started out in this, right after I retired, um, I wanted to um, take my opinions and blast them to everybody who would listen, and I didn't care what anybody thought. That was just my approach. Here it is, guys. This is what I think. Feel free to disagree with me. Just make your case and be polite. But this is what I think, and it's what I pretty much do a couple times a week. Um, and the way I look at it is that if if um, if the government is finally going to acknowledge it, I'm going to be nothing but happy. Whether I was put down previously or not doesn't matter to me. It's finally going to come out, and I'm happy about it. So that's pretty much where I stand.
Perfect. Perfect. Um, all right. Shane is asking, do you feel that you've ever been abducted?
Hmm. Okay. Um, Toward the end of the Night Visitants, I made a comment to the author, Anna, that um, um, I thought that what they were doing was taking my mind and taking me to places.
Oh, okay.
Not that I was physically abducted, but
Okay.
I thought that they really just took me, my essence, I guess, took me places, described things, and dropped me back in my body. Um, and then at the very end of the book, one of the last things I say is that, you know what? I bet I was abducted. Uh, I had several different near experiences in the middle of the night with Native Americans that came into my room. I mean, I'm not Native American. Now, why would I think this? I thought Native Americans came into my room, and it was really odd because um, when they came into my room, they came from my right. I was laying on my back. They came from my right, and if that's the case, my door in the bedroom is on my left. So did they come through the wall? Uh, and they stood on either
Possibly.
they stood on either side of me. Uh, and I sleep in a queen size bed. So how did they get to the right side? It would have been bed there. So
Right.
the whole thing was just odd, but I just know that they were in my room. I just know it. So what I was thinking is maybe this was me waking up and them about to take me back. And that's where the door
Possibly.
was on the right hand side.
Possibly. Hey, Robert, nice to see you. Longtime friend and listener from uh, Aussie, Australian area.
Okay.
Robert says they can take the mind and put it into clone bodies.
Um,
I
well,
wouldn't doubt it.
I came to that conclusion that they had to be just taking my mind because they weren't taking me until the
Right.
very end when they were.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Um, Charmaine, she is asking, do you feel like there is a connection between the paranormal and UFO sightings?
There's a direct connection. Um, I believe that the paranormal uses um, the uses other dimensions to travel within the realm of the Earth, and possibly even between the Earth and their planet. So the um, other dimensions are accessible, are used by spirits. So I believe that what's happening is as the more and more extraterrestrials come to the Earth and utilize the dimensions that we aren't really familiar with, then that's creating a wake, so to speak, a wake in the fields that are surrounding these other dimensions, and that's what's opening areas that are making the ghost sightings more prevalent.
Do you think that with all of the testing that we've been doing on CERN with CERN as well, do you think that that's opening portals and maybe allowing things in that don't expect?
It could be shaking things up, but I just don't know what CERN is doing,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I'm not sure who does know what CERN is actually doing, and that is the biggest problem. We're experimenting, and
Right.
what is it causing? I don't know. Could it be causing this? It's possible, I suppose, but uh,
Obviously I mean, yes, they are experimenting and obviously, they have some idea of what they're trying to accomplish, with all of this.
mhm.
My fear is that, it's not like a tiny experiment that if it goes wrong, it can be contained and you can, try again next time. If they do something, there could be very huge consequential effects from what they're doing.
Could be, yeah.
That's that's the
Yeah, they,
scary
they
part.
yeah they could create a small black hole. Um,
Right.
I don't think they're going to create a large black hole. I don't think that's possible, but it's possible if you create a small one, it could eventually grow into a larger one. But I really do think that they have different properties, and that is not going to happen. That's just my opinion.
Great. Um, all right. Jonathan has a question for both of us. Let's see. Have the aliens ever told either of you to prepare for the end of the earth? I will just say personally, I've never been shown the end of the earth. And I'm just saying that's just me personally. What about you?
Yeah, I haven't been shown that, but um, if you looked at my Facebook page, there's a picture of me standing next to a great big um, um, screen, and this screen says, "Take care of your planet." That's one of the comments that was made to me when I interviewed a abductee, that they were told that we should take care of our planet.
Oh, 100%. I think
Yeah.
that, too. I mean, if we look at just the state of the world itself, just as the Earth as a whole, it's in bad shape. I mean, I definitely agree. And it's funny because people always ask, well, do you see the end of the world? Do you see, us getting, nuclear bombed and, destroying everything? And thankfully, no, I don't see all of that. I really do believe that if it got to a point where it was going to be something nuclear, I do think that somebody or something would step in. I mean, we've seen that, nuclear reactors have been shut down and they've been, deactivated and, different things. So I would hope that that would happen. But thankfully, again, I haven't been shown at least anything in the near future that anything like that's going to happen.
hmm
Okay.
and when I was writing volume 2, They Are Here, I was writing about the central U.S., and I was focusing in on the northern states like Wisconsin and Minnesota and Michigan. And I came across a prophecy that was written by Native Americans. Actually, it was probably not. It was not written by Native Americans because they didn't write anything down. They told
Right,
stories from grandparents to grandsons and daughters,
right.
and these
And a lot through
stories.
pictures, right?
Pardon me.
And a lot through pictures.
Yes, yes. Um, and this particular thing was called the Seven Fires Prophecy. This was a prophecy that described to a group of the Native Americans who happened to be living up near Nova Scotia, that um, they would go from where they were living over to an area, and they would know that they got there when they came across food that grew on the water. And that's kind of cryptic, but um, I believe there's a certain type of cabbage that grows on the water that's edible, and
Oh,
they
okay.
found that in Wisconsin, I believe. And that group started out as the uh, the Algonquin. I think it was the Algonquin tribe, and it ended up with the tribes splintered, and one of them was the Ojibwe tribe. And I was, um, in my opinion, somebody put this person in my pathway. So I had just read about it, and I was doing other research, and lo and behold, right in my feed for Facebook was a girl who had um, who had just come from a tribal meeting, and she was Ojibwe, I believe. And this is right after I had researched it, and she made a posting about it, and I got in touch with her and interviewed her, and I included her comments. But one of the things that she said was that the um, the uh, their visitors from the sky uh, told them that they should be following the rules and the laws of all Native Americans, and that if they did, they will be saved at the end of the earth. And this end of the earth is what's called the seventh fire of the seven fires prophecy. And that's where we happen to be right now, in fire number 7. And it made a statement that that the white man who uh, who um, respected the land, uh, that the that they would be um, that they would be saved, and everyone else could perhaps uh, be part of an Earth reset. Now, this is like generalized. I sort of
Right,
compressed
right, right.
multiple pages together, but um, she told me this directly. She said that her grandfather told her that if they lived according to their ancient traditions, that they will be taken off of the planet and returned when it was safe to be here.
Oh, okay.
Now, what does that exactly mean? Well, I don't have any real words on that. You can draw a whole lot of conclusions from reading the seven fires prophecy yourself, but it is very, very interesting. And everything that happened until this point, and we're in the seventh fire, and we should be making a selection on what we want the earth to be, and making the right selection will bring us to the eighth and final fire, but making the wrong selection will cause a reset.
Well, I mean, and I could see that. I mean, if we also look at, just the situation of the Earth as it is right now, I mean, if you look around the globe, it, we seem to be having earthquakes bigger and everywhere. With
Yep.
the volcano, the volcanic eruptions have been out of control.
Yeah.
Italy just blew up the other day. I know Iceland, they're waiting. I mean, it's tearing their whole area apart,
Hmm.
So I definitely could see where if something doesn't change, or even if it doesn't have anything to do with change, I just think that there is a cycle that happens. And if you look back throughout time, there's been many civilizations, ancient civilizations, and where did all those people go? They just were there. All the structures are there, and we know there were people there one day, and the next day everybody's gone.
Yep.
So maybe this is just a continuum of what happens, and then whoever survives will then continue on and move it forward. Who knows? It's, again, very interesting for sure.
It all makes sense, that these civilizations live in the 10 to 20,000 year range, and then they
Yeah,
get wiped out, and because of something, whether
yeah.
it was imposed on them, or just a happenstance of living here on this planet, and then we start from scratch, and hopefully we get it right the next time.
Yeah, because that kind of seems the way it goes. I mean, again, if you
Hmm.
really look back through time, um, we really only kind of knew those stories because either hieroglyphs or the stories were out there somewhere to be deciphered and told later. So again, we kind of see the same thing. We've seen all these different civilizations over time go through, and there's a lot of evidence to point towards that we had giants and that we did interact with different alien races and things back in those times. And maybe now, next to our time, we don't, so we're very curious. But I mean, if you look back at what all of the ancient civilizations have left us, it tells a story, and it pretty much continues that's been something that's been very prevalent.
Yep. And there's no way that the some of the megalithic structures, including pyramids were made by the ancient Egyptians. I mean, they were probably made by a previous civilization
Absolutely.
15, 20,000 years ago.
And we also know now too that there are pyramids all over the globe.
Hmm.
It's not just, the pyramids, there in Egypt. There are pyramids all over the place. So it's very interesting again when the things that come out, again, it's not just you think, oh, okay, if you think of the pyramids, of course you think of Egypt, and you're thinking of the Sphinx and Tutankhamun and all of that. But yeah, if you look around the globe, there's actually quite a few different pyramids and more that are being discovered all the time, especially with all of the sonar and lidar and all the new technology to find this stuff now, because a lot of it has been covered, by over time. So a lot of them
Yep.
you don't really even see, and even underwater pyramids that have been found.
Sure, there's all kinds of stuff that they're coming up with in Central America, especially,
Yes.
and we have them in Antarctica.
Yeah.
And you, of course, you just mentioned underwater. There's all kinds of things underwater we don't know about, including, in my estimation, other civilizations just waiting for us to do something.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Carol says, I just posted something on these pyramids on Earth. Yeah. I mean, again, I was just reading one where they found one like out in the ocean somewhere. I mean, again, there's so many discoveries that are taking place. And again, if you look, I mean, there's sunken cities and, there's so much that we haven't discovered above ground. So I can only imagine all of the unknown things that are, below water,
Yep. Well,
sometimes even in our own backyards,
and I wouldn't be surprised if we've been waved off for researching the oceans.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. And people laugh at me all the time, but, you know, and I have nothing to back this. It's just a very strong feeling. But I have this huge fear of sharks, not just sharks in general, but it's always been like a huge great white, like a megalodon. And, they're like, no, they no longer exist. And I was adamant since I've been young that they do still exist. And then they found Old Blue, and that was the biggest one to date. Now they found what they think is one that's even bigger than that. And it was by the Mariana Trench, where again, we have found since they've started to now research that area. Now they're starting to find all kinds of things we didn't know about. So, yeah, I mean, here in California, when we had all of the droughts, Lake Mead, which is a very popular uh, lake,
Reservoir.
ended up going dry, right? And they
Hmm.
start like all these dead bodies and barrels with people in them and all kinds of stuff was found at the bottom of it. And people boat and swim in that all the time. Never would have even thought anything, a second thought about what could be underneath those waters. And I mean, how many people go out there and actually search?
Mm. Yep.
Interesting. All right, let's go. We've got about 10 more minutes. We have Stephen from Twitter. Well, I guess X, if I got to be politically correct. He's wanting to know what your thoughts are on reptilian races. Do you believe they exist?
Um, I have no firsthand knowledge of them. Okay, let me start out with that. And but having said that, I would not be surprised if they do exist, because um, it's just a matter of time before we come across one that is reptilian based. It's just a matter of time. There's so many out there.
Yeah. Uh, I it was interesting because I can't even remember the person's name because I've been, doing this show I think for like 10 years, but I had him on and he was an author and he had written a book that was about all these different races of alien beings that he had encountered or knew about or interviewed people. And it was amazing the amount, and he had like illustrated pictures of what they looked like. And it was very interesting because I was, you know, that was kind of my go-to guide when either my own experience or other people's experience, and they would be trying to tell me what the alien looked like. And I would just hand the book over and say, flip through this, see if you see any pictures that, are close to. And a lot of it was. And I can remember there was like hundreds of different types of entities or species that were out there. But I mean, doesn't surprise me either, because if you look at us on Earth, we don't all look the same.
No, it's certainly not.
Absolutely not. Like,
Yeah.
we've got different skin color, eye shapes, hair color, body structures, everything. I mean, so I always, it sounds crazy for people to think that, number one, we could be the only race, in the universe, because we don't just have just one race here on Earth.
You know what? I've seen so many comments from people talking about the reptilian races that I can't I can't disagree with them because I just don't know.
Right.
But because there are potentially so many different races out in the world or in the universe, it's just a matter of time before you come across one that's based on a reptilian. It's just a matter of time. You can have one based on a moth. You can have one based on just
Right.
about anything. And if someone hasn't seen a reptilian yet, they will soon.
All right. Well, there we go. Let's see if we can get one more. Let me check all these sites. All right. This Lisa is asking, what would be the biggest, I don't even know what she means, biggest find in your career would be based on your data?
Interesting. I came up with a theory in my one book, Earthquakes and UFOs, and it's the only thing that sort of follows with all of the research that I've done, is that I believe that what they're doing is waiting for us as a population on this planet. They're waiting for us to ascend to a certain level before they show themselves, because I don't think that they could, that we as a race could understand or accept them, because they would be so drastically different until we ascend to a certain level and we're able to do some of this stuff on our own. But that's the one thing that I came across with data that I found in that book. I was trying to prove why that there were sightings in and around UFO, in and around earthquakes. And I looked at all the different sightings that I have of the multiple databases, and I couldn't come up with a reason that UFOs and earthquakes were compatible. But I did find that there are a series of sightings across the United States on a continuing basis that would account for these ships going back and forth across our country and every other country for that matter, trying to figure out something from us. And what could that be? Well, the only thing changing in the whole country, the whole countryscape, it's not the minerals. They aren't changing. They're in the same places that they always were. The rivers are still there. The oceans are there. Uh, the um, the pollution is still pretty much the same, even though it's going up in a predictable amount. The only thing that's changing are the people.
Hmm,
That's
that
it.
is true.
That's the only thing that's changing are the people. And
You think they're
when
just monitoring? They're just up, just monitoring to see what we're gonna do without having to intervene.
Yep, yep, and they are assessing our levels of advancement, whether we are ascending to their level, so that we can take um, the multiple dimensions that they're going to show us and appreciate them. Because right now, most of these dimensions are just invisible to us.
Interesting. I mean, do you think that as a society we are ascending? Because I know that, back in the day when our government was saying, no, 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 there's no such things as UFOs and aliens. And then, they would come throw in and if there were, we would want to keep this top secret because society, the human race would not be able to handle it. But yet, when we have these hearings and we're saying, "Oh yes, there actually are UFOs, and we actually have bodies," and da 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 da, it didn't seem like it shocked anybody.
No, it
Every
didn't. No.
it did not have the reaction that they assumed it was going to have. People were more like, "Oh, okay, it's about time that they finally admit it." So, do you
Mhm.
think that we are ascending? And because I feel like if they came, I think that we would be able to handle it just fine. I think that it would be new, it would be different. We would have a lot of curiosity and want to know all about it. But I don't know that it would be a fearful thing unless I don't think we would have that fear unless something was to happen where there was some sort of aggressive attack or something. And that's again why I always get worried when I see things where, it's not them, to kind of coerce us to see something differently.
Mhm. Yep. We are ascending, and they are continuously monitoring that. I believe that they can tell what level we are as a race by just flying over and utilizing their psychic skills. And I
Awesome.
believe that's what they're doing, and that's the data that I saw that shows that they are continuously flying back and forth. Otherwise, there's no new reason to do that because nothing's changing
Right.
unless the people are changing.
No, that makes sense. All right. Well, let me see. That looks like all of the questions that we have. I just want to say thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been very
Mhm.
informative. I absolutely, I'm fascinated with people who are fascinated with data. I love that information because it tells us so much that most people don't even consider when they're, researching. So I appreciate you coming on, sharing that information. If anybody wants to get one of your books or they'd like to get in contact with you, where would they do that at?
Okay. Well, you can contact me on Facebook as preferred. My Facebook address is tom.conwell.3. And you can send me a message, and I'll take a look at it, certainly. My books can all be purchased on Amazon. Um, they are here, volume 1, 2, and 3. Going Interstellar, Earthquakes and UFOs, and the Night Visitants. And I'm aiming to start writing a book about God coming up. So we'll see how that goes.
Nice. All
Uh,
right.
I don't know how
Well,
nice it's going to be because I'm sure I'm going to step on some toes, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. Well, when
And
you're ready to come out with your next book, let me know. I'd love to have you back on and we'll promote that and talk about it.
thanks. Thank you,
All
Chrissy.
right. Thank you so much. All
Okay.
right, everybody. Uh, this next Thursday, obviously, is Thanksgiving, so there will be no show, but I will be back the week after. So I look forward to seeing everybody. And then the week after, I have Larry Warren, and we're going to be talking the Rendlesham Forest incident. So it's going to be the UK's Roswell. So we'll be talking about that. One last thing, everybody that you can that's on here and that's watching later, please make sure that you share and also go to the YouTube channel and give me a like and subscribe. All right, that being said, I will see everybody next week. Thank you so much. Have a great week and happy Thanksgiving. Love you guys.